Okay, this tutorial is going to be a Knockout.js tutorial. I'm going to skip the slides because they're boring and you don't want to hear them, and we're just going to go straight into the demo, and I'll try to explain things as I go. So, make a new project. I've got 3 blank files, one index.html, reservations.js, and knockout.js. So first thing we need to do is download Knockout. So when we go to knockoutjs.com, go ahead and download, and it will bring up this text file. Go ahead and copy that and paste that into your knockout.js folder, file and we'll save that. And then in our index, let's create some HTML. Our title, we're going to call this reservations. And in our body, let's see, before we get to our body, let's add Bootstrap into our project because I love Bootstrap and I can't really do anything without Bootstrap. Not true, I just don't want to take the time to do it. So paste that in there. And in our body, since we now have Bootstrap, let's make a couple of divs. We're going to make a container so that it looks good. Make a row to put stuff inside of there. And let's create a table. Let's give it a class of table. And let's give it a head and some headers. I'm going to call this name and meal and price, and we're going to leave a blank one there. After the head, we're going to do a t-body, and we're going to fill this in a minute. Before that though, let's hook up our JavaScript files. So we've got a script with the source of knockout.js, and we have another one called reservations.js. So that's good for now on that. And now let's get to our reservations JavaScript. So the first thing we're going to do is create a class. And so this is our reservations class. You can call it however you want. So start out like function, seat, reservation. We're going to pass it a name and a meal. And we're going to declare var.self equals this. Now, in JavaScript, it gets confusing sometimes when you're deep inside of a JavaScript function or class and you don't know what this is actually referring to. So declaring self at the top of this class makes it so that self is referring to the class. So we're going to make self.name equal name and self.meal equal meal. And then here we're going to create our view model. So this is where our knockout code is going to go. We're going to call this the reservations view model. Looks pretty familiar, right? Again, var.self equals this so that we can refer to the view model via self. Here we're going to have some non-editable fields, not fields, but data. This is stuff that would normally come from the server, so AJAX calls would normally get this data. I didn't want to set up AJAX, so I don't have a server or anything. We're just going to ignore that. So we're going to create a couple meals in our data list. Our standard meal will be a sandwich, spelled correctly this time. I did this before and it wasn't spelled correctly, so we'll do it this time. The price of that will be $10.95, and then let's create 2 more of those. We'll do the premium option, which is lobster, and that one will start at $34.95, and then the ultimate will be a whole zebra, and that is going to cost you $290. And we'll close that array, and under here we're going to put editable data. It's not going to be editable right away because I want you to see the transformation. But until then, we're going to keep it under the editable data section anyway. So we're going to call instances of our seat reservation. We're going to pass in Steve, and we're going to have Steve order the sandwich because he's cheap. And then we'll say that Bert is also making a reservation, and we'll just close that. Now this is really crucial in your JavaScript file. In order for Knockout to see things on your UI or in your JavaScript file, you need to do knockout or KO apply bindings and call new reservations model and close that. So now we have a table outline. So let's just show you what this looks like now. Boom, there it is. Let's go above the table. Let's add an H2, and we're going to say your seat reservations. So now we have a table with nothing in it. So we need to get data in there, and we have the data in our JavaScript file. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to the body. We're going to say data-bind. So this is how you call Knockout in your HTML always. In this case, we're going to do a for each element, and we're going to find our reservations. Those reservations being these reservations. So we should see two reservations in this for each loop here. And as we loop through, we're going to create a table row. And in that table row, we're going to have some table data. Now, this table data is also going to be data bound to the Knockout data, right? So what's going to be bound is the text. We want the text to read name, the name of the reservation, right? Which in this case would be Steve. The next one is going to be your meal name, right? So we're here inside of our meals. This is what meal has, and this is the meal name, and this is the price. So this one's meal, this is going to be meal.price. So now, if we go back to our index, we should see a filled out table with Steve and Bert, who are each ordering a sandwich at $10.95. And it doesn't look too bad, but it's not ready yet because we want to actually be able to do something with this page, not just show it. So the next thing we're going to do is make these editable. So how we do that is we're gonna observe the UI to see what's there. So here in our reservations, we're going to do KO observable array, and we're going to enclose that array inside of that observable array. So now it's going to initialize with Steve and Bert inside of that array, but it's going to be watching to see if that array changes, and that's what the view model does. It looks at the view and captures it, and it's easily transferable to the model. The view model is our real-time controller. As well, we're gonna do an observable on the meal because I expect we're gonna have people who don't want sandwiches, and they're gonna be able to choose. They're gonna be able to choose their meal. So we're gonna observe the meal, and there's that next step. Important. Since we've made meal a function and this array a function, meal.mealName isn't going to work anymore. It's got to be meal with the parentheses because our meal is now a function that's being observed. So if we've done everything right, we come back, it looks the same, that's good. If it doesn't look the same, you're probably missing these parentheses. Go ahead and make sure you have those added. So now let's say we want to make those editable. So let's go back to our HTML and let's get rid of this. So we have our table data. We're going to make an input. Gives me a lot of stuff that isn't necessary for right now. We're going to data bind to the input now. And since inputs don't have text, they have values, we're going to data bind to the value, and we're going to make that the name. Now for this meal, we're not going to want an input box, we're going to want a select box. So let's go ahead and add select and close that. And then let's data bind. And so with select, obviously you have different options as well. And we're going to bind the options. And we're going to bind it to root.avalableMeals. So what root says is go to the view model, because right now we're looping through reservations. It thinks we're inside reservations, right? So when you say root, it says, okay, go back to this reservations model and then get the available meals. So our options are going to be this list of meals here. The value is going to be each meal, and our options text is going to be the meal name. Now you might not notice that I put that in quotes. This is how you access the key value in this object, just like you would do in JavaScript normally. And then our price, you know what? Our price looks kind of ugly. Let's make a method in our class to change the way our price looks. Let's call it formatted price. So here we have self.formatted price equals knockout. So something new, computed. So we're not just observing it now, we're computing. Computing happens because it's dependent upon something that's observing. So for example, with this price, we have price equals self.meal.price. So price is an attribute of the meal, which we are observing. And after we get that, we want to return the $ concatenated with the price to fixed, and we'll do that. So now in our HTML, we're going to data bind the text to formatted price. So text formatted price. So now if we go back to our table and refresh, we now see our price is formatted. We can edit the people in our reservations. So Gary's now here and he is ordering the whole zebra, and you can see that the price updated because it's observing the meal, right? So knockout is observing the meal and it's computing the price in that instant.